So what do you want the next generation of filmmakers to learn from you?
Patience. It takes time. And discipline. Discipline is freedom. There's nothing that nothing anyone can obtain worthwhile that will not require discipline. I meet actually a lot of the acting students that I meet. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, you know. I say, okay, what if it takes you another 10 years? That's a problem. You have to love what you're doing. And you have to do it because you can't do it. You can't not do it. You have to do it because you can't not do it. If you're not doing it because you can't not do it, find something else that'll make you money faster. Oh my gosh. So that's a really good question. Um, there's a special moment that the lead character has with a cardinal in the movie. And as I was writing about it, I just heard that title literally as I was writing, and I was like, ooh, I love that. And I don't want to give away the story, but it ties into a moment in her childhood where she was helpless. She finds this little red bird, right? That's kind of helpless, and she's like wanting to nurse him, you know what I mean, and like help him the best that she can. And during that time in her childhood, we see a moment where she's helpless as well, but there's no one there to help her. So she kind of feels like this red bird that she saw, like just lying there in need of help. And the way that moment kind of evolves throughout the story. I started writing my film in 2010, actually, was when I first started writing it. I wrote 2 drafts, and then I had stopped writing for about 10 years. I was going through a lot. Well, I was an addict, you know, and I didn't know. And so I strayed away from writing and all things creative, except acting classes. I continue to take acting classes. And then in 2020, that's when I started writing again. And I picked up that script. I didn't realize it was the same script. Oh, wait, this is the same script I started working on 10 years ago. I guess I need to finish this story. So yeah. It's more how long I've been thinking differently, because for people that have a substance abuse, that's the kind of language that you'll usually hear, like, oh, how long have you been sober from drinking alcohol? But fantasy sex addiction is nothing like having a substance addiction. It's all in the mind. And so it's really more about how long I guess, thinking soberly, or taking a different perspective. And I'd say probably I started therapy in 2018, and I'd have to say sometime in the middle of last year is when I was really able to start processing life without using fantasy as a crutch for those moments that were hard to move through. This is why I'm doing the short film, because most people don't know what fantasy sex addiction is. So there's 10 different types of sex addiction. And fantasy sex addiction is when you are unable to have sex with your partner without fantasizing about someone else. And so the first 10 years, I've been married, it'll be 14 years in January. The first 10 years of my marriage, it was impossible for me to have sex with for me to have sex with my husband without fantasizing about someone else. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't do it. And he knew. And I turned to pornography and masturbation as like ways to just, because I wasn't being satisfied in the bed with my husband. And it wasn't anything that he was doing wrong. It's that I was in another world where I wasn't, because that's what addiction is, a response to pain. And so it was keeping me from connecting with him intimately. So you fantasize about others while you're having sex, and you also lose time during the day having fantasies in your head. So I had fantasy relationships that lasted for years. And there would be times where, I use this example all the time, I'd be washing the dishes, fantasizing, and my husband would approach me with a question or something, and I'd get mad that he would interrupt me while I was fantasizing. And so these were things that, the way that you have an addiction is it ruins your life. It makes your life unmanageable. I almost lost my job. It made it hard to parent. I threatened to divorce my husband. I almost cheated on my husband. I tried to. So there were so many things that my life was unraveling because of this. And I didn't know, because I had been doing it since I was a kid. I started fantasizing, when I was a child, so.
What brought you to address your addiction?
No, finding out that I was going to be a mother. I was like, I can't, nope. I don't want my daughters to have to live like this, And as someone who, I'm a woman of faith, and so even like being in church, like I didn't bring it up, because whenever I did, people looked at me like I had 3 heads, like, I don't know what that is, I can't, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm on my own, you know what I mean? But God still loved me, you know what I mean? He kept like, he kept me in that time. It was a really, really challenging time. But yeah, I didn't want my girls to live that way. I wanted to be able to parent from a place of love and not from a place of trauma, because that's what happened to me. You know what I mean? The whole addiction started from childhood trauma, being sexually abused and being exposed to pornography by the time I was like 8. You know what I mean? Like there were these things that just kept feeding the urge to fantasize, and I'm like, this ends with me, because I don't want my children to have to go through this. So that's what was it for me, becoming a mother.
So can you talk about what led you? I know you said you were writing about it 10 years ago before you actually addressed your addiction, and you eventually started writing about it again, unbeknownst to yourself.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what it was like, really wanting to bring that to life, because that has to be kind of scary in this sense, right?
It was scary. And to be honest with you, I didn't realize that was what I was doing until I was halfway through the 3rd draft of the film. Because the main character, I knew that she was based on who I was, like, back in my more wild days. I was like, I know this chick. Oh, she's me. You know what I mean? But it was very scary. I actually had to incorporate it in the therapy process with my therapist. Like I would talk to her about the scenes that I wrote, or I would talk about it with a friend. I would pray about it, because it helped me to understand some of the deeper issues. But I would be like shaking and crying as I wrote. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm making this public. But the way that people have been responding to just hearing my story and not even knowing the script, I'm like, it's worth it. To hear people say, especially women, like, there's this whole like, oh, men, they could have porn addiction or blah, blah, blah. Women go through that too. And there's this level of shame, you know what I mean? And I hate shame. I think it restricts us from
so
being,
many things.
Yeah.
You've been crowdfunding lately, so
Yes.
how's that been going? I know crowdfunding is really hard putting yourself out there.
Yes.
After you've been in your writing hub and in your own head for
Yeah,
so long.
yeah. It's been exhilarating. I know I used that word already. But it's made me. It's made me question a lot of things, actually. It's made me question, like, motive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, constantly asking myself, not for myself, but when I see other people doing things, I'm like, what is the why? I want to know the why. Because for me, especially with filmmaking, if your why isn't strong, don't do it. Get a strong why. You have all the money in the world, but if your why isn't strong, don't even do it. And so whenever I see people doing something, because of what I've been doing, I'm like, what is their why? You know? And not to judge them, not to be like, oh, her motives ain't good enough. Like, not to throw shade, but just like, I want to know why you're doing this, like why it matters to you, you know? So yeah, it's really helped me to put things into perspective and to not judge where someone might be on their artistic journey, like, because it ain't easy. Actually, a friend of mine, Kimberly DeWitt, she's a filmmaker here in Atlanta. We bartered on a service, and I said, listen, you can teach me how to budget a film because I need all the help I can get. And so she did this like 2-hour Zoom tutorial with me, bless her heart. And I said, okay. And I thought about, ooh, I could do this with my feature. And I said, okay, wait, that's too big. That's way too big. That's way too big. Let's make it small right now. And I did that with my short. And I said, oh, okay. So I just literally just went into Excel, or I can't remember which spreadsheet, which software. And that's how I did it. So my estimation is that the film should be completed in terms of shooting before Christmas. My goal is to hopefully have it edited before the end of January and be able to get it into the next, circuit of film festivals. Thankfully, my DP is also my editor, which is amazing. I love that. I don't think that's necessary, but I think it can be great value when you're able to connect the two. When we got accepted to Bronze Lens, it was like, I was weeping tears of joy. It was such a gift. Just getting in was a gift, getting accepted. So that was the first film festival that we got into that I was actually able to attend because it's here in Atlanta. So that was a great time. Trifina is kind, and at the same time she's diligent. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's the kind of diligence that we need, especially as independent filmmakers, because we don't yet have millions of dollars at our disposal.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's no time to waste time, you know? So there were times where she was very much a taskmaster, and I was like, OMG, you know what I mean? I need to, and it was difficult for me because at that time, my husband was in school full time, and we had 2 kids under the age of 4. So it was just like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta stay on my toes, you know? But she showed me a lot of grace, a lot of grace. I might have been fired if it was anybody else, because I was like, it was hard. It was a lot of, she was in California and I'm here in Atlanta. So a lot of our meetings, sometimes it was 2 a.m. for me, because that's just when the schedule lined up. But we pulled through.
And talk to me what it felt like, that moment where you knew she was trusting you with her story and with her film.
Yesterday? No, I'm just kidding. The moment I knew that she was trusting me, when we started to go through the script. Mm-hmm. So this actually answers your previous question as well. So when I go through a script, I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So the script was 10 pages, and there was one day where I spent 2 hours on one page, because I was literally plotting out every moment of the film with the understanding that it might not look that way. It's going to change on set, and that's fine. But at least I know what I want. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I would do that, and then I would call her, and we would go through it. And there may have been some, like, there wasn't any resistance, but at first it was like, okay, where's this going, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then it's like and as we went through it, she was like, oh wow, like she started to see, I'm treating this like it's my baby too. You know what I mean? Like, if you leave your child with me, they're my child, and I'm going to protect them as if they were my own. And so it was very much like a fine-tooth comb. And that's when I think she really, and as I started to add to the vision that she gave me. So there was one point, and this was actually more with post-production, where there was a shot that we thought about omitting, and that was when it's a really quick shot, where we see her she's doing yoga on the beach. And she's like, I don't know if we need it. I said, we absolutely need it. Because this is the moment where it shows this woman has an important connection to God. And she's waiting on God to lead her to her person. And in this moment of frustration, she remembers where her foundation is. And this shot shows that. It's just her and him. That's the foundation. And even though it's only a couple of seconds, it matters, you know? And when we saw it, the next round of edits, it was like, oh, you know what I mean? So it was little things like that happened in post-production. And also as we were in pre-production and we were like creating the shot list and all those things.
You know how you pray for something and then you get a glimpse of it?
You know, there was this guy yesterday at the bookstore. So?
Oh, gosh.
Did you say something?
Your lips taste sweet. Like honey off the comb.
May your kisses be sweet like the finest wine.
So it's two lovers who they've never met, and they're writing love letters to their person using passages from Song of Solomon. And one of the things that we agree on, and most people who read the Bible would agree on this, is that a lot of people who read the Bible don't read Song of Solomon, and it's a very erotic book. It's very passionate, you know? And so we wanted to draw on that, the safety and passion between two people who are committed to each other, that are in covenant with each other. But we wanted to talk about, also show the importance of a mature love. You know, these are two people that are whole within themselves. They're not looking for someone to complete them. They're looking for someone to complement them. And they know what they want. You know, so they're moving forward patiently with the expectation of not just meeting someone that they're going to like, but meeting someone that they're going to be passionate about. And you know, you hear a lot of fear in that for single people. At least I have. Like, I want to make sure that my person's going to be. And I'm like, of course, you have to have that faith, you know?
Yeah.
So
talk to me about the next film festival you guys have coming up and where people can possibly see the film.
So we just did one, the Burbank International Film Festival, which I wasn't able to go to. So disappointed. That was just this past weekend. And then the next one is October 28th. It's in San Diego, and it's called I think it's called the Black Arts Festival. It's a newer festival, but they celebrate Black art, and it's at the end of this month. So, yeah, we're excited about that.
How do you want to introduce yourself? What do you want our audience to know about you?
That I love people. That's number one. Which is why I'm a filmmaker. I'm a producer, writer, director, and actor. I've studied in New York. I've studied in LA. I've studied in Florida as well, and I've studied here in Atlanta. I have 2 daughters. I'm happily married, almost 14 years in January. And I also teach actors as well. I coach actors, and that's kind of how I got into directing. And I love telling stories that really happen to people.
I don't know all of them. My only say to shine your light, so shine on all of them.
I like that.
When I tell you I gotta...
So we are done here. If you want to tell everyone where they can donate and find out more about your crowdfunding.
Absolutely. Please follow my film page at Here Lies the Red Bird. There is a link tree. On the link tree, there is a GoFundMe link where you can donate to the film. Some people don't want to send money via GoFundMe, so they might want a Cash App or PayPal. Just send me an email, and I'll send you the link to those as well.
And Solomon's Mood.
Solomon's Mood. Please follow Solomon's Mood at Solomon's Mood on IG.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. My pleasure.